and just please continue at your own pace. There we are. 1 minute, actually, before I push my button. So, I feel like that's a really easy breath to get lost in because it's just so present with what's happening right now. Yesterday, I talked about uncertainty fatigue, and the video unfortunately was cutting out while I was talking, but I got a lot of really interesting conversations with people from that idea. I love that the expression of uncertainty fatigue resonates with some of you, and I think just being able to name it in a way has been really helpful for me. I've also had people talk about how there's some, I've heard people talk about pre-traumatic stress, which is kind of funny to me because I think that that would just be called stress, right? Or is it stress that could possibly lead to trauma? I'm not sure. But no matter what, we are living in stressful times, and whether or not it becomes trauma is uncertain, and that probably varies for everybody. And I'm hoping that by offering this like little breathing technique and these little conversations, that hopefully we can just ride this stress and not bring it into a trauma response, while acknowledging there's nothing wrong with that going into a trauma response. It's an expected reaction for some people in this time. So today I wanted to talk more about the idea of dissolution and disillusion. Disillusioned is a really great song. Maybe I'll put that link in here too, just because I think the lyrics are great. But when I was thinking about uncertainty fatigue, I was trying to understand why, part of why I'm feeling it, besides the desire for certainty, of course, but it's in this uncertainty, it's because things are kind of dissolving. What we've been able to count on as norms is dissolving. And when things start dissolving, we can start to see the cracks, the illusion that we've been carrying in our culture and in our personal belief systems and in the world around us. I wanted to dive a bit more into what those words mean. So when I think of delusion and disillusion, dissolution, the opposite, or the root of that is solution, right? And the root of disillusion is illusion. So we understand a solution being an act of solving a problem. That's one definition of a solution. Of a solute, which gets dissolved into a solvent. So you have this one thing, the other thing's blending together, and it all becomes homogenized and blended into this one thing. And that whole thing together is called a solution. Just hang out with me here. I'm just like rudimentary thinking about this. Like, if we're looking at this, a dissolution, like the solution of being this like blended thing. One thing I was reading about a solution, it says it doesn't scatter light, and it can't be seen by the naked eye, which I think is a really interesting way to think about how our society has been. Like, it doesn't, you can't see it while you're in it, right? So if we're in this solution, neutral solution, maybe it's a good solution, maybe it's a bad, maybe it's working for us, maybe it's not, it doesn't matter. but it creates this illusion. And when I've been thinking about illusion, of course I wanted to look that up and have a deeper meaning of what that means. So Merriam-Webster said an illusion is the state or fact of being intellectually deceived or misled, which I absolutely think we can all see that in different parts of our society right now, how we've been intellectually deceived or misled. Either it's a fact or it's the state of being in. That feels so gross, but I feel better about it when I consider that we're in a solution that is homogenized in a way that it doesn't scatter the light and can't be seen with the naked eye, or easily with the naked eye. Another meaning of illusion that I think is a bit more to the truth of what's going on here is an illusion is the perception of something objectively existing in such a way as to cause the misinterpretation of its actual nature. I'm going to read that again because that gives me goosebumps when I think about it. An illusion is a perception of something objectively existing in such a way as to cause a misinterpretation of its actual nature. I'm not certain where to go from here, but when I'm thinking more about being intellectually deceived and misled on the one hand, as well as I am misinterpreting the actual nature of something, this solution being an illusion. I don't know. I would really love to have some conversations with you guys about this, what that might mean. But when I'm looking at, I drew this little like circle thing, like here it is, illusion, disillusion, all that. I'm like, when I imagine that we've been in this illusion, but it's starting to move into this dissolution, where it's dissolving away, or, you know, turning into a little bit of quicksand, like, right? The earth, when any of us that have been in an earthquake understand some of this sensation, right? Where you're standing on what you think is solid earth, and then suddenly there's this shaking, rocking. I mean, I've been in earthquakes where I could hear it coming. You could hear it like a train coming across the earth, and then hear it moving through the plates. It's crazy, but it's this, oh, so uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, to feel something that felt so solid roiling into something not so solid. And I think that some of this uncertainty fatigue is related to this trying to find this stability in the shifting sands of our day-to-day life. I recognize that some of us are not feeling this as deeply as others, and blessings to you if you are really like not moved by this experience. And I'm also talking to others that are really riding the edges big time. A lot of people that are in service directly with people that are nurses particularly, or other healthcare providers, or just even support staff at hospital settings. Like, this is really destabilizing. I want to come back to that a little bit too, because if we're talking about something dissolving, the dissolution of the structure, it's also crumbling our illusions around that. It's the disillusion. Like, we are no longer seeing, we are starting to see the crumbling of being intellectually deceived or misled, meaning we are seeing maybe how we've been intellectually deceived and misled, or maybe we're seeing the illusion dissolve around how we misinterpreted the actual nature of things, events, relationships, societal structures, constructs, I suppose. I'm not sure what else there, but I'd love to know what you think. So in that disillusion, I think what our normal response to disillusion is to find a solution, to go into the act of solving a problem, which has its pluses and minuses, right? It's very well, the heart's in the right place, and it's something that we need to do, and I think it's just part of how we solve things in the world. I mean, I'm definitely an action-oriented person that if I'm trying to figure something out, I'm going to find the solution. And being in the discomfort and being in that uncertainty fatigue sucks for me. So uncomfortable, and I really don't like it. And it makes me feel like crying, and it makes me angry, and it makes me not feel safe, and oh my God. But then when I consider that what we might be doing in this time is trying to reach for a solution, I fear it's going to just put us back on this cycle again of put us into illusion, which I mean the solution. Nurses are running out of things to use. So the solution is going to be for communities to turn in masks and for nurses to go buy Glad garbage bags and wear them as personal protective equipment. Like, okay, that is an act that works towards sort of solving a problem, but the problem isn't just the fact that nurses don't have the things they need, right? That's not just the problem. There's way more to that. So it builds this structure again of illusion. And as we are in this time right now, these illusions aren't lasting very long. Like, we're getting, like, there's a bigger problem going on. So it just goes back into that disillusion, contributes to uncertainty fatigue. And then we go back into this, like, disillusioned state. So what I'm really seeing from the people I'm talking to and working with is that we hope the solution will bring this sense of illumination. And I'm going to go back to for a second, how in the scientific definition of dissolution, or to solution, a solution does not scatter light. It doesn't scatter light. So that made me think that the opposite, the solution brings light with the hope of illumination. And we're hoping that by figuring out solutions that we're going to find a way to illuminate. And yet illumination isn't just like this enlightened wisdom place, which I think some people think, and there's a part of that. But in illumination, we also see the things we haven't seen before, right? So we haven't seen, except for those of us working in healthcare, how broken the healthcare system is. Everybody knows it, but man, is the light shining on that right now. We recognize how our has not really been serving the people, but Wall Street and for-profit and all of these things, like, and somehow we just kind of, we're just staying with the illusion that all is fine, and yet now this light is shining on it, we're getting illuminated there, and it's like even more clear. So I was wondering if the illumination that we're truly seeking is through this solution-oriented approach, and I don't think it is. I don't think we can help but approach things with solutions. That's part of our nature and what makes us so great in many ways. But I also want to circle back that we need to do something deeper with the disillusion part. And the disillusion, it made me think of the Japanese pottery technique of kintsugi, which I think I'm saying right. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. And many of you may understand this concept where Japanese pottery that was broken was traditionally repaired with something more beautiful and valuable, like gold or something like that. And it ultimately made the whole thing more beautiful and valuable. And so the practice is to not only highlight, but honor the broken places in order to make the whole thing more beautiful than before. Yesterday I talked about, a couple days ago, I talked about A More Beautiful World We Know Is Possible by Charles Eisenstein, which I think is a really great kind of dovetail into this part of the conversation. But I believe that through this highlighting and honoring the broken places, this is where the true illumination comes from, where the solution that comes from that place is, I hope, guiding us all to a deeper love and connection and humanity, and allowing this time to bring us together as a human family rather than dividing us in fear and isolation. Maybe it's not, dividing us in fear, but really I think fear is just going to be part of it. That's part of the human experience and what our bodies, what we live through, right? It's just happens, and it's when we get stuck in fear that it turns into suffering. So it's okay to feel this fear, but to isolate and pull away and get afraid of your neighbors and the people around you, I think is really more harmful to our animal human bodies. That part of what makes us so cool is this relational healing that we share. That's what our oxytocin receptors are. That's why it's so important at birth for babies to go skin to skin with moms. It's part of our wiring, our neural pathways, is to stay connected, So yeah, that's what I got to say about disillusion and illusion. Dissolution. I would really love to hear your thoughts on this topic. If you want to talk about it, or you want to write about it, or you want to just whatever. I hope that it might stimulate some conversation for you. I wanted to talk about a couple things that are coming up that I think are super cool and I would love to let you know about. One is the Fantastic Fungi movie is streaming today worldwide. I think you can just go to fantasticfungi.com. I think this film is really amazing, and it helps me when I think about how our neural network works, or how our neural pathways are supposed to connect with one another, as well as how this freaking amazing internet web is helping us to connect, and how much it's related to the mycelial networks of mushrooms, and how mushrooms are the remediators of the planet. That's a whole other topic. I really would recommend watching this film if you have an opportunity. It's really beautiful and educational, and might give you a real sense of hope if you're feeling a little hopeless. So I think that's happening today. You can just go to fantasticfungi.com and figure out how to stream it in your world. And then another thing I wanted to share is I had this really lovely breath work teacher, Robert Littman, who has a website called The Breathable Body. And he is teaching an event on Sunday called The Art and Science of Breathing with COVID-19. Oh, maybe I need to talk to him because my lungs are getting a little... But I've learned a lot from him about the capacity for breathing, and I think, reading some of the scary things about what's happening with how people are breathing, I really hate to say it, but it's not a good situation, my friends. People on 50% oxygen and really gasping for air, and let's figure out how to breathe in a way that's deeply healthy. So anyway, I'll attach the link in the notes, and if you can watch it today, that would be great. Sunday. And if not, I think that he's letting you watch the replays. So yeah, anyway, that's my bit for today. I would love to connect with anyone one-on-one if you want to talk, and I'd love to serve you in any way I can. Blessings to you, especially those of you that are deeply affected by this. We'll talk again soon. Bye.